So we decided to do problem number 2 in the function set. So problem number 2 says, let f of x equal x to the second minus 5x and g of x equal x to the second plus 3x plus 4. Now part A says f of g times x, which translates to f times g of x. So what you want to do is you want to write out both equations so that you're able to look at them one on top of the other. And then you want to try and write this into an equation form. In place of every x in f of x, in the f of x equation, you want to write the g of x equation in each of those x's. So right here you see you have x to the second. Now instead of writing x to the second down here, you would write in parentheses x to the second plus 3x plus 4, because that's the equation of g of x. And then you would close the parentheses, and then that's the second. And then over here, since you have minus 5x, what you would write over here is minus 5, and then in parentheses the equation of g of x. So there you have that. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to take this first part of the equation and you want to distribute. So you would do x to the second times x to the second, and then x to the second times x to the third, and x to the second times 4, and so on and so on. Okay, so now once you've distributed all that, it comes out to x to the fourth plus x to the third plus 4x to the second plus 3x to the third plus 9x to the second plus 12x plus 4x to the second plus 12x plus 16. Now what you want to do is you want to combine like terms. As you can see, this 4x to the second can be added to 9x to the second, and you can also add the other 4x to the second in green, and so on and so forth. So combine like terms, and then what you want to do is, once you have the combined like terms, it should amount to x to the fourth plus 6x to the third plus 17x to the second plus 24x plus 16. Now, over here you can see that I added the second part of the equation, which was negative 5x, and then in parentheses x to the second plus 3x plus 4. So what you want to do is you want to distribute that as well. So that comes out to negative 5x to the second minus 15x minus 20. And you want to add this on to that part of the equation. And then you also want to combine like terms. What you should get is x to the fourth plus 6x to the third plus 17x to the second plus 24x plus 16 minus 5x to the second minus 15x minus 20. And I've circled like terms, and I've also underlined and squared them. So 17x to the second and negative 5x to the second could be combined. They can be subtracted. And then 24x and negative 15x can also be subtracted. And so on and so forth. Now, add and subtract like terms, and your answer for f of g times x should be x to the fourth plus 6x to the third plus 12x to the second plus 9x minus 4. So next we decided to do polynomials. The equation that we picked was the first one, and it says f of x is a cubed function with the zeros at negative 9, negative 1, and 6. And then the second part of that equation says f of 10 equals negative 9. So the solutions are negative 9, negative 1, and 6. Now, we want to write them as x plus 9, x plus 1, and x minus 6, because if we wrote them out the way that they were written up on top, we would get positive 9, positive 1, and negative 6 as our solutions. So we have to put the opposite in the parentheses. And then over here in red, we put f of x equals a. A is our coefficient. Now that's what we're trying to find. And in order to do so, we need to use the second equation that we were given, which is f of 10 equals negative 9. Negative 9 is your y. So over here you're going to put negative 9 equals a, and in place of every x you're going to put the negative 9. So in parentheses, negative 9 plus 9, close parentheses, negative 9 plus 1, and then negative 9 minus 6. And then you want to add that up. So negative 9 equals a, and then the first parentheses gave us 0, because negative 9 plus positive 9 equals 0. The second parentheses, negative 9 plus 1 gives us negative 8. And the third parentheses, negative 9 minus 6 equals 15. And you want to multiply all of that out. And you see here there's funny little writing. So negative 8 times 0 equals 0. And 0 times 15 equals 0. So we write out negative 9 equals a multiplied by 0. Now you want to divide by 0 because that's what we got. So negative 9 divided by 0. And that leaves us with undefined because you can't divide 9 by 0. And if you multiply all that out, you get 0. So that's our answer. So last but not least, we decided to do inequalities, and we did the first problem. And that states x to the third minus 49x is less than 0. So what we want to do is we want to rewrite it as x to the third minus 49x equals 0. From there, we want to factor out the 49 and the x to the third. Now, since it's x to the third, that means there's 3 x's, and we can only really factor out 2 numbers. So we're going to put the other x over here in the front. So we would get x minus 7 and x plus 7. Now, our solutions would be x equals 7, because if you do this equation, you would set it equal to 0, and then you would put plus 7 and plus 7 on the other side, and you would get a positive 7. Same thing for that second problem. So x equals negative 7, and since we have this x over here, that's going to equal to negative 1. And our final solution, written out in this form, would be negative 7, comma, negative 1, union 7, infinity. And that's our solution.